one cool thing about the G.I. Joe series is that every character had a specialty. This guy did fire. This guy was into climbing mountains. They had specialties, and I think if that's one of the things that was missing from the movies is that they made them all generic black outfits. Nobody was special. They all were like wearing Iron Man power suits, and so you couldn't tell Roadblock from Duke, from Hawk, from anybody, because they were all the same. Whereas the cartoon show, it gave every character was something a little bit different. Like Lady J was different from Scarlet, was different from Cover Girl, was different from Storm Shadow, was different from all the other characters. So everybody was like individual, but they were part of the team.
Your opening sequence in the G.I. Joe movie is quite something. Can you tell us a bit about this extravagance? Because it's something unique and something quite independent in a way from the film. Basically with that, when they were doing the movie, they said, okay, we need an intro to the movie. So I was at home, and about that time, it was some kind of anniversary for the Statue of Liberty. I went, oh, okay. And that clicked a little element in my head. Okay, let me make up something about celebrating the Statue of Liberty and having Cobra F it up. So that's what I did. I just started drawing. I just started making up stuff. And having worked on 65 episodes of G.I. Joe prior to that, I had all these character shots in my head because I had been doing it for so long. And I just started drawing, just started making up stuff. And I started making each shot, I tried to fill it up with a whole bunch of stuff, happening. Now, back then, when we were working on G.I. Joe, you got to remember that's a TV budget. And so back then, I would put in all this stuff into the shots, into the scenes. And when the film came back, you maybe saw 50% if you were lucky, because they had a budget. They couldn't do everything I drew. So they would simplify it, and that's what we get back for television. And so when I did the opening for the movie, that was my logic. I said, okay, let me make up all the scenes. And it was like, I just made everything up. I just started, okay, have them do this. How about this? I was just letting the movie go in my head. And as I saw the movie, I started drawing it and filling it up with characters. I was as surprised as a lot of people when it came back. And all of that stuff I put in it, like the balloons and everything, they actually did it. I was like, holy crap, it's all there. And I have to admit, I didn't really fully realize that I was working with a theatrical budget, not a TV budget. And so with a theatrical budget, it was like many, many times more money is put into the intro than it is for a regular show. Actually, the intro probably is let's see, I'm going to say a regular episode might cost $200,000 for a whole 30-minute episode. Well, I think on the theatrical, that was the budget for just the intro. So they put a lot of effort and time into that intro, and it's like, I was totally blown away that it came back so good. It was like, holy, they did everything. Look at it, they did this. The intro to the G.I. Joe movie, probably I feel the most proud of, because I did the intro to that one. I did the intro to the XMen, Karate Kid, RoboCop Alpha Commando. But the G.I. Joe one, that's the one that I'm most proud of, because it actually came back so well animated. It was a Japanese company, and they did everything. How did you get involved in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and how do you remember their explosion into popular culture?
Elliot Darrow and Walt Kubiak and Bill Wolf, all three of them were working at Murakami. We were all friends from working in animation. And when they got the contract to do Ninja Turtles,
they were friends. They say, hey, you want to do storyboards? I'm going, yeah, sure. I'm working daytime and nighttime, why not? And so I was familiar with the Ninja Turtles, but the fanzine version, which is like dark and grimy and gritty and, really not a kid show. I'll put it that way. So they were able to take it and flip it to that type of audience. And they just say, here's a script. Just have fun, here's a script and just do what you normally do on an action adventure show. So, and it's action adventure and comedy. So it's not just, fighting and stuff. It's like young kids having fun at the same time. So that was the kind of the wide parameters they gave us. And so you just took the script and you just ran with it. I did 118 episodes out of 130 episodes. I did 118. So I worked on quite a few of them, and it was all freelance. So I was at home drawing Ninja Turtles. At time I was doing He-Man comic book. I was just working everywhere at the same time, just making money and having fun. And but basically that's how I got involved with Ninja Turtles, was just a lot of friendships. And see, a lot of working in animation is built on relationships. And so being a person that they knew I was good at doing action adventure, and also that I was easy to work with, those two things really help you in the business to work on this show, then that show, by having a reputation of doing good work and turning working on time and easy to work with. I mean, that's like, they'll call you every day if you have those three skill sets in the business. And so that's actually something when people want to get into animation, need to remember that it's all relationships. And if you're easy to work with, turn working on time, you may not need to be the best artist if you meet those first two, because that means that that's someone they can depend on. I mean, being someone that's easy to work with is the third, and that almost guarantees you work all year round if you have all three qualities going on. And I had the three, so it meant I always got work. And with Ninja Turtles, I would always improvise or do something different, something maybe more anime than had been done in regular cartoon shows. And so they were open to it. And, everything went well. And it was like a good relationship. So, yeah.
Have you ever imagined in those early days when you start working on the storyboards that they would make such an impact in culture?
No.
It's a crazy
No, not at all. We figured, I think in the back of my mind, I figured, okay, Ninja Turtles would be successful, but, not, it has had generational success all the way up to today. Like He-Man, it's like that show touched a real good part of the kids' imagination, and it was part of the good part of a lot of kids growing up, that they really had fun and enjoyed it. That it's continued to today, because to me it's like you got 4 kids eating pizza, partying, having fun, and by the way, we have swords. We're going to fight ninjas and beat them up all the time, and and just party. So it's partying, and it's having action adventure. Nobody really gets hurt. There's it's that fun part of working with archetype characters. No, at the time I didn't think it was going to be as successful as it is today. God, I wish I knew. I'd have bought stock in whatever company was making the toys. But yeah,
it's, yeah, the cartoons in the 80s and 90s have had, not all of them, but there's certain key ones, like the ones we're talking about, they hit the right buttons, all the right, they hit all the scores in the right places, and they're like, they're going to be around for a long time because they're such good concepts.
Larry, as someone who worked closely with Stan Lee, how do you remember him as a person, as a man, and as a professional?
I worked with Stan for about, if I had to add it up, maybe about 13 years. And my memory stands. I have good memories from Stan. I don't have any bad memories. So I've always been a person that spoke very highly of him. I was also friends with Jack Kirby and Gil Kane and other artists in the business. The way I describe Stan to other people is that Stan was like one of three characters. He was three characters. He was Peter Parker, he was Spider-Man, he was J. Jonah Jameson. All three of those were here in his head. And when he would come to work, he was usually one of those three characters would walk in the door. And if he walked in the door as Peter Parker, you could talk to him like I'm talking to you right now. Normal talk, whatever. If I'm talking to Spider-Man, I'm talking to someone who is like really over the top. He's talking to you and literally jumping on tables saying, look, this is how Spider-Man does it. He sticks his fingers here. So you got to make, he'd be jumping around and really over the top person talking about what he's saying. He's got that, he's got that Spider-Man salesman stuff going on. And the third one is J. Jonah Jameson, who's the grumpy businessman who's in charge of the Daily Bugle magazine, newspaper. And so you just kind of look to see which one came to work that morning. And if it was J. Jonah Jameson, you just kind of like, you avoided it until Peter Parker came back, or to Spider-Man, Peter Parker you could talk to. And so that was what it was every day. And so a lot of times it's Peter Parker. You just talk to him about stuff. And sometimes it would be, Spider-Man over the top. The J. Jonah Jameson, you just kind of avoid it. And his office was like maybe 2 doors down from my office. And so if the office door to his room was closed, you didn't go in. But if his door is open, that's usually Peter Parker or Spider-Man. So no big deal,
X-Men, one of the most iconic series ever, and the true love letter from and to Marvel fans. What were the things that you enjoyed the most on this process, and what are the fondest memories you have of working on the show?
The X-Men was like, out of all the shows I've worked on, that was the most fun and the most satisfying creatively. And because I've been a fanboy since I was in elementary school. I love comic books. And the fact that I got the chance to be in charge of the X-Men was like the kid in the candy store. For me, my best memories of the series is that is the first season 1, because they said, okay, you got 13 episodes, go for it. But the reality was, except for maybe 2 executives, everybody thought what we were doing was wrong. You don't do continued stories, you don't kill off characters, and they thought you should write down to kids like Scooby-Doo. Say, no, we want to write up to kids that are like teenage and beyond. And so they thought we were doing it all wrong. And they kind of like wrote us off like it will be one and done. And so the byproduct of that attitude was they didn't micromanage me. And so for me, that was great. That meant I could do whatever I want. And so I could make the show X-Men into a show that I liked, that could respond to the fanboy inside of me. And so I kind of like shaped the show into something that I wanted to see. And so I threw in cameos of other characters, because I remember as a kid in the 60s, Stan Lee would write, like in the middle of a Spider-Man book, he'd have Thor go through the scene. And then you have a little footnote at the bottom. If you want to see where Thor is going, check Tales of Mystery, A Journey to Mystery, issue, whatever. You'd have little footnotes to try and reference other shows. And as a kid, it was so cool because it created a connected universe. So when I did In Charge of the X-Men, I wanted to translate that same feeling I had as a kid, 5-7-year-old kid, put it on the screen. And so I tried to put Spider-Man in, they rejected it. I found another episode where I put cameos in, but I didn't use the real names, and they didn't react to it. So it's like from that point forward, I put cameos in, but I never used the real names, and so nobody said anything. And so I remember that I put those in to bring back that type of feeling I had as a kid. And maybe somebody watching it would have the same reaction, you know?
I had a note precisely about that, about the ingenious way that you found of putting the characters into the show, and while dodging the bureaucrats
Yes.
and appealing to the true fans. Everybody appeared in some way or another, even the Punisher.
I kind of snuck them in there here and there, yeah. And my rule to myself was that I would only put cameos in if it didn't disturb the original story that I was working in. So like a person who knew nothing about the X-Men, if they saw the scene and there's a cameo, to them it would just look like a table or piece or garbage can or whatever. It wouldn't mean nothing to an average viewer. But if you're a fan, you saw, oh my God, there's, that was a Punisher, or oh my God, that was Spider-Man, or whatever. That was like, it would excite you as a kid to see a glimpse of another part of the Marvel Universe in the show.
You are the one that actually created the opening sequence.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about it, and also about the music?
I can tell you that the X-Men intro, we didn't have a lot of time, and I had maybe less than a week to come up with something. So I started drawing. There's a book out, The Art of the X-Men, right now, and it reproduces the intro that I drew. I drew about 3 minutes of action. I just started. It's like the G.I. Joe intro. I just let my imagination just draw it. Just make up stuff. Just start drawing, and just let it come out of my imagination and just started making up stuff. So it was more of a stream of consciousness, but I knew it had overdrawn. And so once I drew it, then we could go back and say, okay, well, we only need a minute of this. So we started cutting out what was the best parts. And that's how we came up with the intro, the visuals. Now, with the music was that was actually maybe the 12th or 13th, 14th version, because the first version that was sent to us was bad, and it was like nothing exciting. We kept sending it back over and over and over again until they had a little piece of music. Na 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 na. They had a little piece, and he said, we blow that part up, and then we didn't tell them how to do it. Just take that little piece and blow it up, do something else with it. And that's how the music, that's where it came from. That little part became the entire theme because this is like season 1. And we knew we only had one chance to make the show work. And so we didn't want to get music that was like crap. We wanted something that was, at first, I was thinking of maybe it should be like a mystery music. But then talking with Margaret and Will said, no, we want something that's driving, moving fast, everything. And so that's where that version came from. So I just sort of with the intro, I kind of made up, a stream of consciousness from my imagination. And then the music came from us rejecting the bad ones. And the one everybody knows now. But that's the genesis of what happened there.
Larry, you have worked in so many shows that it is impossible to fit every of those shows into a conversation. Which shows that I left out would you bring to the table as more important to you?
There are shows that I tried to make them successful, but they didn't work. One was the Karate Kid that I was in charge of, but I couldn't. The writers and me, we were on 2 different pages. And so as much as I tried to make the show, to elevate it into a nice action adventure show, the writing brought it down because it wasn't the show I wanted to try and do. So we weren't on the same page. Luckily on the XMen, myself and the writers were all on the same page. Yeah, and Will and me and Rick, we were all, we all were in sync together, so everything worked well. I think probably the Karate Kid, that most people didn't see. It only lasted 1 season. That I wish I could have helped that series more. The other series I worked on that was, I think it was The Real Adventures of Johnny Quest, was a really fun series that I was directing. And I wish it had 2 seasons on it. I wish the crew that was involved with me and Davis Joy, the other co-producer, I wish we could have done season 1 and season 2, because we could have made that show into something really good. But season 1 was like, and season 2 are like night and day, because the people who did season 1 actually didn't like Johnny Quest, where us on season 2, we love Johnny Quest. So it's like 2 different versions. That happened also on when I took over the 2nd season of Fantastic Four. The 1st season, these guys, I have no idea what they were doing. They had scenes of like the Human Torch fighting this underwater guy called Submariner, and they're underwater. I mean, just right there, it's like, no, it doesn't make sense. Stop it. So when I did the 2nd season of the Fantastic Four, we did all the good stuff, the classic stuff. We brought that into the show. We did all the classic characters. We had cameos like Ghost Rider and Thor and Ego, and we went after the classic stuff. That show, I know people prefer our stuff on the second half because we tried to do it more like a Marvel book. That's another one that I wish I had been in charge of the 1st season and the 2nd season. We could have really, really created a lot of good stories if we had been involved from the beginning, but we only did the 2nd half. I did Captain Planet. I was like the first director on Captain Planet. That was fun. We got a chance to meet a lot of the voice talent and stuff, but I think after me there were like 4 other directors. Every season had a different director.
As someone who has worked in the industry for so long, in your view, what was lost and what was gained in the animation business on these last decades?
The one thing that was a big change for me was the introduction of, instead of drawing on paper, now we're drawing on computer tablets. And I had to adapt to drawing that way because when you're drawing on paper, you can actually feel the paper as you're drawing it, and a lot of times on the tablet, it's like glass, so you don't have the tactile feedback that you have with a pencil. When you're on this, you try and draw a line, and there's no resistance to the lead. So I had to adapt to it. I think the business has changed so much that right now, at least in America, they aren't doing they're not doing He-Man. They're not doing adventure shows. They're not doing He-Man. None of the shows that you grew up with. Everything's a comedy, and it's not as fun or character driven as the shows that you grew up with. It's something different. It's a different type of approach to telling stories for young kids. And I can't say if it's right or wrong. It's just that when I watch it, there's very few of the new shows that pull me in. There was one comedy show called Gravity Falls. It was actually funny. I actually liked it. It was great to watch. But a lot of shows, I just don't. I try and look at it with young eyes, but it doesn't appeal to me. It's a different audience, and I think what's lost in the business is the kind of shows that you grew up with. They're not doing those anymore, and they're not doing that type of humor anymore, where it's like adventure and humor, like a balance with the Ninja Turtles or the He-Man stuff or Defenders of the Earth. They're not doing those type of shows anymore, which I think is a real problem, because I think kids are missing out on a lot of good entertainment that way. But hopefully maybe something will happen to bring it coming back. All it needs to do is all you need to have is a hit show. If someone came up with a version that was as popular as He-Man, then everybody will try and copy it. That's what will happen. Until someone is a trailblazer and creates something that's new and successful, people are going to still keep doing this comedy stuff over and over again, because unfortunately that's all that they know.